I think we have to appoint a chair.
Yeah. I'll move for Britt. Second.
So do we move to make me trustee Churchill seconded? I don't know if I want to ask for all those in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Okay. I'd like to call this public hearing to order. This public hearing has been called by the village board pursuant to the Illinois Truth in Taxation Law to consider the proposed 2020 tax levy of the village of Chatham. Notice of this hearing was published in the Chatham Clarion, and a copy of the notice and proof of publication have been presented and are made a part of the official record of this hearing. A recording of the procedures will be made on the village equipment and retained until minutes of the hearing have been prepared and approved by the village board. The Illinois Truth in Taxation Act requires the village to hold a public hearing if its tax levy in the aggregate is more than 105% of the previous year. This year, we expect our tax levy to be roughly 107% of last year's levy. The tax levy is the amount of revenue the village is seeking from taxes based on its current tax rate as applied to the approximate value of all property in the village. An increase in the levy does not represent an increase in taxes. The reason the tax levy is higher this year is because property values in the village have increased and the village has annexed several properties over the last year. These factors combined to raise the aggregate base amount of property being taxed. The tax rate will stay the same, but with more houses being taxed, the actual dollar amount of the levy will increase. I want to stress that residents will pay the same percentage to the village that they did last year based on their property's assessed value. With that being said, do any members of the board wish to make a statement or ask a question? Hearing none, do any members of the public want to make statements or comments or to submit written statements or comments for the record? No emails, okay. Hearing none. Do members of the board wish to make any further statement or ask any further questions? None. Seeing and hearing none, this public hearing is adjourned. Thank you. And we'll come back at 6.
I'm going to leave this recorder going through the whole thing. Okay, so.
Thank you, sir.
Yes. Safe Harbor Day.
Just to let the kids stay with us.
You see that?
One's coming too.
I saw someplace you could buy them for 100. Paul, did Kira show you Mia's talent show thing? Pretty cool.
Said she was texting with Wendy, but didn't tell me what about.
Wendy couldn't get it to go to the teacher.
Watch this, dude. There's music to it, but
Two.
She's good.
I see you got back to the sparkling mask tonight.
Did you post this on YouTube?
Uh-uh.
You should. My kids would like to see it. Especially my daughter.
Gotta coordinate,
No
right?
more earrings in months.
She's doing all the days.
I've never worn earrings, so you know, I just go
You
down that
don't
trail.
need the text. You can figure out exactly what they are.
Next week, our next meeting is the meeting before Christmas.
It is.
We should have some sort of meeting.
Next one's
for
funny.
Santa.
No, we haven't.
That's
We
awesome.
not having.
Yeah.
So she's gonna finish all 25 or 24, whatever.
Yeah.
We had one like.
We had some reason we couldn't email her. She couldn't send it.
It was on Christmas Eve.
It was close.
Then we had them on my birthday.
People showing up tonight.
Time
So are you, has your thirst been quenched, or
Not yet. And shortly,
are you planning on playing pickleball, or
I'd have a bigger bottle.
you don't drink that much in pickleball?
Public comments, we just general,
Budget at the end, right?
Public announcements,
not on agenda topic.
Yeah.
all about agenda topics, it would be
Non-agenda.
non-agenda.
So is that the last?
Number.
You can take care of it in the board meeting
Yeah,
yeah,
instead of waiting around to committee poll.
because there's a general agenda topics or comments at the end of the board meeting.
You guys would just mind giving me a little like nod or something.
Yeah,
yep.
we can do that.
I'll just be waiting for it. We can buy my time.
And after too long, he comes out with the shepherd's hook, takes your head off.
Get the curtain call on. I'll make it short and sweet. Still have to address what we were talking about last week.
Greg actually could have probably come up here tonight.
You guys bring that up again.
You want, I'll move back down here.
It doesn't matter.
And you can always comment
He's probably comfortable back there too.
You want to sit up here tonight?
Could comment on, if you have a comment, that can be at the beginning.
Yeah. That way we don't put baby in the corner. Welcome back.
It's good to have you up here.
Feels good.
You've had time to assess everything from the back.
You know, I do have a great vantage point back there. I can keep tabs on everybody.
Do we have to appoint a chair again?
Yeah, for the village board meeting.
All right. Everybody join me in a moment of silence. Pledge allegiance. So, do we need a motion to have a chair?
I'd like to make a motion to move trustee Gerger to chair.
I'll second.
We have a motion by trustee Detmer, a second by trustee Churchill. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? No, the ayes have it. Do we have to make a motion also to let Mayor Kimsey participate by phone?
I'll make a motion to allow Dave to participate by phone.
Second.
I have a motion to, he's not here due to being quarantined, so to speak. He is on the phone, so I have a motion by trustee Detmers, second by trustee Charo. All those in favor?
All right.
Opposed? All right. Welcome, Mayor Kimsey on the phone. Can we get a roll call, clerk?
Trustee Mann.
Still there today?
Yes, I'm here.
Trustee Mao. Trustee Charo. Present. Trustee Gerger.
Here.
Trustee Detmers.
Here.
Trustee Churchill.
Here.
Village President Kimsey.
Here.
Do I have any public announcements? Do I have any public comments on agenda topics? Do we have anybody signed up for any on agenda topics? Okay. Can I have a motion to bring the consent agenda forward?
Make that motion.
Trustee Mao, seconded by trustee Charo. Any discussion on the board minutes or the warrants resolution?
I have a quick question on the warrants. I saw Dustin had a mileage reimbursement request. Does he use a truck in the water department fleet?
He has that black SUV that's out there.
I saw he had dropped off a sample at the PDC labs. I didn't know if,
It's in Peoria.
okay, if we would use those trucks for,
That thing's not seaworthy. So
Okay.
Keep it in town.
it's close by. Okay. All right.
Any other discussion on the minutes or on the warrants? Okay, can we have a roll?
Trustee Mann.
Yes.
Trustee Mao.
Yes.
Trustee Charo. Yes. Trustee Gerger.
Yes.
Trustee Detmers.
Yes.
Trustee Churchill.
Yes.
Okay, old business, we have none. New business. Ordinance amending the village liquor code pertaining to the number of outstanding liquor licenses. We have a motion to bring this to the table.
Make that motion. I'll second.
Trustee Mann, seconded by trustee Mao. Any discussion?
Can you just clarify again, Pat, what the intent here is?
Well, we usually keep the liquor licenses to, the only thing that we have that's open is the special event license. So if there's a license out there that no one's using, the board usually takes that away. Then that way it causes anybody coming into town to have to come to the board and request that liquor license. So when we were going over what we had, a person was calling about a gaming license. I started adding it up. On our codified ordinances, it showed that we had 7, but truly we only have 6 right now, so we needed to remove 1. So.
If you wouldn't mind, I would like to table this to the next committee discussion, so I'd have since this hasn't been brought up before us, to have a chance to review the different definitions.
This isn't the first time something like this has been brought up. I urge us to continue, and I know trustee Lang, we've talked about this before, and there's no real need to table. I would second that. I don't see a need to table it.
All right, so you guys know what the Class R1G license is and Class R2G license is, and
We've gone over it 25 different times, yes.
What is the RG?
what are they?
What are they? You've got them in front of you.
R1 is restaurant where they serve beer and wine. R2 is restaurant where they have hard liquor. TG is, just like it says, it's tavern gaming.
Okay.
We used to have a lot of T licenses. We actually have 0 now because everybody has gaming. So when we put our license together, if it's a G, it's a gaming license. If it doesn't have a G at the end of it, it's just a regular tavern license. The last time we just had a regular license was Fulgenzi's when they closed. It was an R2. We had 1 at the time. We've moved that to 0. So
You know what license this represents as going away?
it was a TG license. So if someone wanted a gaming license, we would have that available.
It looks like we're removing a TG and adding an R1G. That's what it looks like is occurring in the
in the
ordinance.
Yeah.
So we're removing one, but then we're adding one?
We're adding the Sun Thai because they had a tavern before and now they want a restaurant. They have a restaurant.
Okay.
We passed the ordinance allowing that. We just failed to change it in the codified ordinances.
Okay.
Okay.
So this is something we voted on before, it's just the codified ordinances don't match what we,
Right, there's no new licenses, but the thing that we failed to do was take away the extra TG license.
okay. All right, any further discussion? Can we have a roll?
Trustee Mann.
Yes.
Trustee Mao.
Yes.
Trustee Charo. Yes. Trustee Gerger.
No.
Trustee Detmers.
Yes.
Trustee Churchill.
Present.
Next on the agenda, new business, an ordinance setting village board meeting dates for the calendar year 2021. Can I have a motion to bring this forward?
I'll make that motion.
Trustee Charo, second.
I'll second.
Trustee Detmers, discussion?
Ordinance we pass every year.
Mhm. Yep. Any concerns? Okay.
There seem to be no conflicts with the second and fourth Tuesdays of the month like what we've had in the past.
Okay, hearing no discussion, can I have a roll?
Trustee Mann.
Yes.
Trustee Mao.
Yes.
Trustee Charo. Yes. Trustee Gerger.
Yes.
Trustee Detmers.
Yes.
Trustee Churchill.
Yes.
Next is an ordinance levying the taxes for all corporate purposes for the village of Chatham, Sangamon County for the fiscal year commencing on the first day of May AD 2020 and ending on the 30th day of April AD 2021. Do we have any discussion, or do I need somebody to bring this forward?
I'll move.
I'll second.
Trustee Detmers, Trustee Churchill. Any discussion? Okay, hearing none. Roll?
Trustee Mann.
Yes.
Trustee Mao.
Yes.
Trustee Charo. Yes. Trustee Gerger.
Yes.
Trustee Detmers.
Yes.
Trustee Churchill.
Yes.
Okay, number 4, a resolution abating the direct annual real estate tax in the amount of $319,250 for the year of 2019 levied pursuant to ordinance number 14-04 and amended pursuant to ordinance 19-37. Can I have a motion to bring this forward?
I move.
Trustee Detmers?
Second.
Trustee Charles seconds. Any discussion? Okay, hearing none. Roll?
Trustee Mann.
Yes.
Trustee Mao.
Yes.
Trustee Charo. Yes. Trustee Gerger.
Yes.
Trustee Detmers.
Yes.
Trustee Churchill.
Yes.
Next, number 5, an ordinance amending IBC 2012 shallow foundation requirement. Can I have a motion to bring this forward?
I'll make that motion.
I'll
Trustee
second.
Mao, Trustee Churchill seconds. Any discussion?
This is what Brian.
This is what Ryan Crawford presented.
Yes.
I didn't notice any changes. Are you aware of any changes?
I'm not.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any more discussion? Hearing none. Roll?
Trustee Mann.
Yes.
Trustee Mao.
Yes.
Trustee Charo. Yes. Trustee Gerger.
Yes.
Trustee Detmers.
Yes.
Trustee Churchill.
Yes.
Number 6, an ordinance revising the amended village customer service policy handbook that we revised last meeting. Do I have a motion to bring this forward?
I'll make that motion.
Trustee Churchill, do I have a second?
Second.
Trustee Charo, I believe this was to correct some mistakes that were in the ordinance, correct, Greg?
Right, so this, what this does is it presents the floor amendment that was made at the last meeting, and then also one other
Minor.
typo, a few
Because,
provisions that just because that ordinance was drafted in a hurry, there were a few drafting mistakes. This doesn't change any material element of the ordinance.
okay, any discussion?
I'll just lead by saying that you know, again, as we talked about at the last meeting, there were kind of two different proposals. Mine was a longer proposal that would extend through the end of 2021. Trustee Gerger's proposal was kind of split into two sections, up until March 1st and then up through December 31st of 2021. So at the end of the day, I ended up comparing what my draft was versus what we ended up passing at the meeting, and they're very similar. What was passed at a meeting does have a little window where you can't apply, but I don't think it's significant enough to change. I mean, we're welcome to change it here. And the only other item was that I had originally drafted a smaller late fee percentage.
3%?
Yeah, I had suggested 3% in my proposal, but it was mistakenly left off of the draft. And so it wasn't really discussed amongst the board. As you know, the general late fee is 10%, and Pat's mentioned it's sort of projected in the budget as collected revenues. I personally think 10% is a little high, especially given COVID. Made several calls along with other trustees, made several calls to other local utility companies, and many companies are either setting their rate aside, they're dropping it, and there are obviously some that are leaving it as is. I again believe that 10% is too high. Last meeting, we ended up passing 5% late fee until March 1st, and then it would revert back to 10%. My original proposal was from now until the end of 2021 that it be 3%. I don't know if anybody has comments with that regard. I know that, again, we have to be fiscally responsible, and I understand the psychology of a late fee, that you don't want it to be too little that it's ignored, and you also don't want it to be too high that it buries people. So I think we should keep both of those in mind.
So the utility committee did discuss it last night, and it was a consensus with the utility committee that they thought, because we brought your number to them, they thought 3%. And Mr. Lewis and Mr. Packelhofer kind of indicated that what was discussed was really that we're probably collecting more late fees now because people are falling behind. So dropping the percentage may not have as much budget effect but we don't know. I mean, we can't project what. So they were kind of in the consensus of considering 3%.
And like Trustee Detmers, talked to Ameren, who provides our gas, and they actually do a 1.5% late fee. So with the utility committee's recommendation last night of looking at 3%, along with what Trustee Detmers has proposed, that would, it's lower than the 10%, but it's higher than our gas provider, who's 1.5. So.
And is it also going to go through December? Are we changing that as well?
My original proposal was 3% through the end of December 2021. Again, it was just mistakenly, the way that I had presented it made it appear as though that was what was normal. So it was eliminated from the draft, and the reality is that 3% wasn't normal. I was simply clarifying that I wanted it to be lower. So I did mention it in the previous meeting, but as you know, the last meeting was a little hectic.
So what we passed last time was 5%.
Through March.
Right now,
10%.
it's 5% through March 1st, and then 10% reverting.
So last night during the utilities meeting, they felt like 3% was better through December, or just keep it as it is through March?
They thought, we didn't discuss that part. It was, they thought during the COVID period, during this time period.
Because it sounds like there's a vaccine that's going to be out before December of 2021.
And I think, just personally speaking, I think if we have a significantly different world come March or May or June, then we could obviously revisit this and retract. retract this payment plan offer or revise it, we can do whatever we want. So,
Yeah, I agree with that. I think, so are we considering lowering it again to 3%?
We would need to have a motion to amend, correct?
Correct. Motion to amend the ordinance, but it would be just,
So that what we did, what's in the ordinance right now just was cleanup to kind of, encapsulate what we meant to pass last week. This, it would require a motion to amend to move it down or up or leave it or do whatever. To leave it, we wouldn't have to have any motion to amend. Do we have anybody that wants to make a
I
motion?
will make that motion to lower the percentage to 3% through April.
Okay,
you're changing the period as well as the
Well-
rate.
Well, no, the period as it exists right now is.
Your March 1.
5% Through.
March 1,
March 31st.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Was it March 1?
March 1,
Yeah.
March 1,
Okay, yeah, I'll
3%
make that 3% through March 1.
and 10% thereafter.
Yes, 10% thereafter.
can you make it to March 1? That way March starts a new percentage instead of through March 1, you'd still have,
To March 1
yeah.
through February 28th, March 1.
So we have a motion to amend to make it to March 1 from 5% to 3%. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Trustee Churchill, initial motion was made by trustee Mann. Any further discussion? Okay, roll call.
Trustee Mann.
Yes.
Trustee Mao.
No.
Trustee Charo.
Yes.
Trustee Gerger.
Yes.
Trustee Detmers.
Yes.
Trustee Churchill.
Yes.
And then just to be clear, this is March 1st. We have in this ordinance, it was at 5%. And then this is to change it to 3%.
right.
Okay,
That amendment passed, but now we need to.
now we need to pass, now we need to pass the ordinance. I need a motion to bring the amended ordinance
I
forward.
move.
Trustee Detmers, seconded by trustee Churchill. Any discussion? Okay, roll call.
Trustee Mann.
Yes.
Trustee Mao.
No.
Trustee Charo.
Yes.
Trustee Gerger.
Yes.
Trustee Detmers.
Yes.
Trustee Churchill.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thanks for your help, Greg, on that. I know it was
Yes.
complicated.
Thank you, Greg.
Yes, thank you.
Or well, earned it.
Public comments on village business. If you have public comments, you can come forward.
Alright, so I'm Will Tracy, been here a couple times before talking about the community garden. This is the final proposal for the flyer to be hung up around town. Another couple, things I'd like to touch on. March 15th of next year, I'd like to break ground and, have a grand opening around the 21st, a week later. I have all the tools to create, the garden bed, but, I would just need some way of getting water there. That's about the extent that Pat said that we could possibly, kind of tackle that in tandem between us and leave the creating the garden bed and, the management of it to myself and kind of like a group of, people that would be running the show. Do you guys have any ideas how we get water there? Whether it be a fire hydrant or
You could probably put a temporary meter on the fire hydrant and then meter it and take it off, and somebody that's responsible can put it on there and use it to water that
times a
area.
week or so.
Could you,
The thing that I think that you need to is put together a committee.
Maybe already-
I think with all this trying to fall back on you, I think that you would need a group to help kind of put the rules together for the area and what you can plan where.
It seems simple, but it'll help will be nice.
I get that.
just as a wild idea, just with the water, you could do like a basin or several rain barrels that could somehow
Collect it.
collect. Yeah, and collect, and either people could have a rain barrel per individual plot, or you could have some kind of collective one, something that the committee could discuss together, but that's one idea, since it could be difficult to hook into a main line. And also as a sustainable way of catching the rain.
Definitely, I like that idea. Well, I guess with your guys', I'm gonna go ahead and post something like this on, try to get a committee together. I did call the Chatham Food Pantry, they have a plot, they didn't say they'd really be interested in working with this, they said they would support it, but they're kind of focused on
Right.
what they're doing. Let me reach out to a couple more churches around here, not simply, that one, and see if any of them would, be interested in maybe heading up, becoming part of that committee, so.
I know they all have a need right now.
Yeah, you said we all have a need?
They have a lot of need, yeah, at the food pantries.
Food pantry?
Yeah.
Okay, I did not know that.
Yeah.
But, yeah, that'd be awesome. So, you get some support to them.
You got some?
Well, I almost might suggest too that you attend one of our Public Properties Commission meetings. There's a lot of members of that commission that I think would be right up your alley and very similarly minded, and
A monthly thing?
it's bi-monthly. I'll get you the schedule. I think we have your contact information. If not, I'll grab it today, but
Next one's January 11th, is that what we said, the public property?
yes, yeah, January 11th at 6 here.
Yeah.
There's some representatives from different groups around town, one of which is Chatham Friends of the Park. And this might be something that they might be interested in helping support. You know, it's this park-like structure with communal intentions, you know, and that's right up their alley, so.
All right, that'd be awesome. So January 11th is that next meeting then, so.
Yes, yeah, and I don't know if you're a Facebook user or not, but that might be a good platform to kind of get the group organized and maybe find some members and garner some interest. I'm not sure how your flyer did.
I have not put it out yet.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I just, all I've done is print it out.
Okay.
Just, bring it here, make sure it's all right, we put up. Yeah, in between now and January 11th, I'll just go about trying to get a committee set up and see if we can get more people voting on how it'll go down.
Yeah. Pat, do you remember if you have his email address where I could get in touch with him? And
I do.
okay, thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Okay, anyone else for public comments on village business? Schedule of meetings,
These dates are wrong.
yeah.
I have mine pulled up.
The one thing I would ask, would the board want to move the next board meeting from December 22nd to December 15th because of the holiday? That's what I've been asked to ask. I'm okay with it, but,
I'm fine with 22nd.
no, are you fine with the 15th?
No, I'm not fine with changing it to the 15th. 15th does not work for me, but that's just personal.
Okay.
Should we move it to the 25th?
Jimmy's gonna be in here with a red hat on.
Maybe Wellington,
We're there. That's a Charles.
Sold.
Okay, so it looks as though we don't have a consensus on the 15th.
I'm fine with either. I'd rather more trustees be able to attend.
All right, so the 22nd, then, I'm sorry. So the next will be the village board at December 22nd, 6 PM, Village Hall. And then Public Properties and Recreation Municipal Hall, 6 PM, January 11th, 2021. Do we have reason for a closed session for this? No. We do not, so we will move on. Oh, do I have a motion to adjourn?
Make the motion.
Trustee Charles, seconded by Trustee Churchill. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed, ayes have it. This meeting's adjourned. It's past 6:15, so we'll go ahead and do a call to order and have roll call for the committee of the whole.
Trustee Mann.
Here?
Trustee Mal. Here. Trustee Charo.
Present.
Trustee Gerger.
Here.
Trustee Detmer.
Here.
Trustee Churchill.
Here.
Do we have any public comments on agenda topics? Okay. Do I have a motion to bring the consent agenda forward?
I'll make that motion.
Trustee Mao,
Second.
Thank you.
Trustee Charles. Any discussion on the minutes?
I just have one thing on the minutes under the leaf and branch discussion. It says there is a consensus to eliminate branches being dropped off at the burn pile. I just want it noted that I do not agree. And I think the discussion at the end of that was that it could be brought up at a future board meeting. But I don't know that I'd agree that if there was a consensus to not do it, to close it.
Agree.
So do we amend that to say that the village board wanted to have it discussed at a later meeting?
Well, I was hoping to discuss that with you guys when we got to the village managers update.
Okay.
We can do that. But I would just like the minutes.
If you don't think that there was a consensus, then a motion can be made to amend that.
There wasn't a consensus.
Yeah, I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Do we do a roll on that or just consent? Yeah, because it's minutes.
Right.
So a roll call to amend the minutes to say that there was not a consensus of closing the burn pile.
Trustee Mann?
Yes.
Trustee Mao?
Yes.
Trustee Charo?
Yes.
Trustee Gerger?
Yes,
Trustee Detmer?
Yes.
Trustee Churchill?
Yes.
and then do I have, well, I don't need we don't usually
Back
have a
to the main
motion.
motion.
Yeah, so all those in favor of the minutes now as amended?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Okay, ayes have it. No old business, new business, CMT engineering updates?
Jim's not here this evening, and we finished a lot of the MFT work that we're gonna do for the year. We're still planning on doing Oak Brook, only it'll be a larger portion next year, because we'll combine what we were gonna do this year with what we were planning on finishing up there. So we'll try to roll that out and get it ready this winter, so that when the first spring bid comes along, we'll be able to take care of that.
Where were they patching today, Pat? I saw they had the patcher in the back lot. I don't know if you knew where they were.
Not specifically.
Oh.
We go around town, we hit the different subdivisions and try to hit the potholes. And as long as they're still making hot patch, then we can put that down.
Okay. Is that all for the engineering updates
I
then?
think so, yeah.
Village manager update.
Really, the only thing I had for you guys was the map that I put in front of you.
Mhm.
If you take a look at that map in the center there where it says 3.73 acres, that piece of property, you know, if anybody not know where that's at?
Lowest elevation in Chatham, maybe?
It's pretty low. It really is.
Hey,
The Walgreens is just north of there.
Yeah.
Okay? And Jason's place and the businesses along there on the bank. That piece of property, huh?
It's pretty
It's
familiar.
very close.
Was this
to-
Greg's Park that he gave us or whatever?
No, this is owned by the Gazzardo family. And Mr. Gazzardo called and asked me to check with the board if they would be willing to take this as a gift. Now, as you see, it goes through a drainage area, all right? There's a stream that cuts through it, there's some trees, there's a real old farm bridge there that's real low, that you can walk across it.
Like a scenic farm bridge?
Well,
Yes.
it's,
Very
yeah, you can see it just before you step on it. But-
Very liberal
but
with that
the thing-
definition.
The thing is, we own the property on the other side of Route 4, that R1 area there where the creek goes through.
mhm.
And we
To the
own
north?
Property north of there, that's the R1, that's the light blue color, that's between, you know, the Ravina and the business district.
Okay.
It would make sense for us to take it. If we could ever get an area cleared, we could put a walking park through there, or maybe at some time be able to connect a bike path to
A
it.
bridge over the top of Route 4. This is what I want right here. I want a bridge that goes from right here to right here,
Yeah, over Route 4.
over it. And we can also hang, you know, the snowflakes.
Well, there you go.
Welcome to Chatham.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The thing that would give us an advantage is it would tie all of our drainage ways all the way together through town. And then this, you could actually make a path go over and it will actually go around and connect into that bike path that goes up to the inner urban. We went and walked through it, you know, a couple of years back. It's really overgrown, but they don't know what to do with it. It's too low to build on. You can't put a billboard there.
Could you,
He has to keep paying taxes on it if it comes to us. We don't have to pay taxes.
Those are a lot of good ideas, and, you know, it'd be nice to have walking paths or different things. My question would be, you know, what would be the potential maintenance cost for us? You know, aside from anything that we would do with it, which would be nice to use with it, but, you know, what's the potential liability for us?
Even though he gives it to us, he'd still pay the taxes?
no.
No, there would be no taxes.
Okay, right. I'm like, what?
I had the same concerns about what could potentially be the downside in accepting this gift. I mean, obviously, we're going to have a little bit less tax revenue, but I believe that would be significant.
The only thing I think we would have to make sure is that we keep the stream clear. We wouldn't want a dam to build up and back water onto someone. We keep our crews going through and check it every once in a while.
And that obligation lies on him, on that family today?
It does.
Okay.
As does the area just north of that. That's ours right now. I would say in both cases, neither party has done anything to that property in the last 20 years. No maintenance whatsoever.
Could we ask him to clear it? And then we'll take it?
I was going to ask if maybe we do a newer walkthrough just to make sure there's no other, I mean, it just makes sense to me. I appreciate the gift. I don't want to seem ungrateful, but, you know, if there's a bunch of broken down cars in there, or oil barrels, I don't know.
Tanks down there.
He wanted me to check to find out if the board would be willing to take it. Now, he hasn't given it to us yet.
Right.
He wants to find out whether they do it.
Has any of those homes along there on that side, have they had any flooding issues because of that creek?
No, I think the houses that are along on the south side are up high enough that if there is flooding, it gets pushed to the north side.
Because I know on the other side of that creek, there were houses torn out to make sure that, because they were getting flooded time and time.
You would not put a permanent structure.
So there's some puddling that occurs at the street right there, but the houses are built up a little bit over where that stream is. So
That's
I'm thinking
probably-
that there would be, unless they have basements.
With his permission, I wouldn't mind being able to go and actually walk around in there and look at it.
Yeah.
There's a sidewalk that runs along it, that runs in front of Walgreens, and when they put the new bridge on Route 4 a few years back, they were nice enough to put sidewalks on both sides of that bridge, so you're allowed to be able to get over there and stuff.
Yeah. In fact,
But it is, now is the time of the year to try to go through it, because
Clear, the
when
brush is
it greens
clean.
out,
Yeah.
it is hard to get through.
yeah, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So just think about that, and you can let me know. It didn't have to be decided tonight.
Thank you. Anything else with the village manager update?
We've been working with the Friends of the Park the last couple days, trying to come up with solutions and alternatives for being able to funnel cars through the light. I put together a map for them, storage areas, where we're going to try to run them. So talked to Trent Thompson, our SEMA director, and he's trying to work with some of the guys that he has as volunteers to maybe come out and help them man the station for if we have that kind of turnout again.
That's a good problem to have.
It is. They had over 1,000 cars go through Saturday night.
Wow.
Wow.
Previous record was like 678 or something, so significant increase year over year.
Yeah.
Obviously, thanks to the Friends of the Park for all that they're doing for the village.
Yep.
A couple things, do we have any updates or anything going on with the water plant?
Actually, we do. We had a meeting, me and Dustin met with Bill Brown and Jim Roth. They have filled out all the paperwork and are waiting for EPA to sign off on the chloramines. That Hawk company that they always used as an excuse last year, that was holding things up, still needs to come out and finalize them. But I'm more optimistic now than probably ever that within the next month, we should have chloramines.
And are we going, and he just mentions his name, which made me think about it, but are we gonna see a SEMA plan that we can discuss?
He's working on it. He has some family deaths and stuff like that, and then he got COVID, so we've had some setbacks there, but he's getting close to getting his plan
I
completed.
mean, just my hope or my fear is, because we didn't have it for last storm season, and my fear is not having it for this storm season, and Chatham's, eventually Chatham's gotta get on a storm. And
Me and Vern are having a meeting with him tomorrow to go over our scenario so that we can set up our employees to be trained. So if something happens, we'd be able to go out, whether we put a police officer and a fireman and a street employee with a chainsaw together as a team, and they go into different areas, work on that. That's what we're gonna talk about tomorrow.
Trustee Mao, did you have anything else for Pat? I had something if you're done.
Matt?
what?
Are you done with Pat? I was going to ask a question.
Yeah,
but
I didn't have anything.
Okay, thank you. Pat, there was a citizen that reached out to me. I think that they might have been missed on the branch pickup, and I think they've called the office a few times, and then the company ended up calling them and said that they would pick it up on December 7th, but still hasn't. Could you help me with 802 Money Tree, please?
If I get an address, I
Yeah,
text it to the owner,
Yep.
and it gets taken care of.
that's what I thought. That's so. If you could help me with that one, I would really appreciate it. That was all I had, I think.
If we want to roll that into discussion then on the branch pickup and also with the leaf bags. The leaf bag, they've made it all the way through town. I think they were pretty successful. They evidently missed 2 or 3 streets in Ivy Glen, which if any of you has ever been in Ivy Glen, it's really easy to miss a street because it goes around in a circle and you don't know whether you've been down one of them or not. But I've given them those, and usually they send somebody right out that day to take care of it. So they will still go through the town one more time, starting the week of December the 14th. Once again, if anybody gets missed, give us a call at that time. We'll have them come out. We'll be more than happy to pick them up. As far as the branches, we run into that a little bit because there is a size limit. That company doesn't seem to think that they have to pick up ones that professional companies cut the trees down. But I've reminded them that it says in the contract, if the trees, the branches that are out there are in the size that they're supposed to pick up, it doesn't say anything in their contract on who cut the tree down. So I just keep sending them back out, try to make sure that they take care of that. I told them that our contract at the dump area was expiring. The board hadn't decided one way or another whether we're going to close the dump or not. If they are going to submit a price for doing that work down there, they need to send it to me by the end of the month. So she said she would do that she thought there would be an increase in cost. They're picking up more down there than what they'd expected.
I guess I mistakenly thought that the contractor trees also were not to be picked up by National Tree Care, but I guess I'll go back and look at that because I had the same belief.
If I remember correctly, the problem we have, there's no way to determine after it's been cut down.
Who cut it?
I completely agree. No,
That was if I remember correctly, that was the conversation we had about that.
Yeah.
Was,
So what we've done is the length
yeah.
and the diameter
Right.
is the determining factor.
Yep.
So
So if you cut down a big tree, the great big pieces, you will have to have those hauled off on your own. The smaller pieces, if you put those out there, they'll pick them up.
Well, Pat, a question I'd want to ask them, so I know they're, in the contract, they're not supposed to stage, take the branches to the village burn pile to chip, which I understand why they want to, so they make less trips across town, but it's in the contract those are not supposed to. I would like to approach them and say, would you be willing to compromise, renegotiate our other main contract that's part of the Village Green program to allow them to stage out there, but also then they would pick up our village burn pile as a fair compromise so that they're not making their 30 trips or they even knew how many stoplights they have to make with all those. And I get it, that's a lot of trips for them, but it's in the contract, they're not supposed to. And then on the other side of that is we need, that picked up. So maybe that could be combined in one contract. I know I've had a number of constituents contact me saying that that seems like a reasonable approach. So that's what I would offer, that there is an opportunity, because they're going to, the main contract needs to be renegotiated anyway, since they've been staging out there.
I was not aware that they were staging. No one has mentioned that to me.
They
None of my employees or anyone.
So
told me that they're staging.
we brought it up at the two utility committees ago, and when the committee, the night that they showed up is when we brought it up.
Oh, okay.
And they said they were, and we kind of indicated at that point that, well, we're going to have to look at the contract and probably have to amend it because you're doing things outside the scope and service. And then it came forward that they're doing the school, they're doing the park, they're doing more than just the residential units that are in the contract. So we probably need to include that contract to, everything they're doing needs to be encompassed in that contract.
So I want to back up, when you guys are saying stage, so are they bringing the branches
They're
out to our burn pile
Yes.
area?
They're
Yes.
going through town, they're collecting them, then they go to our village burn pile, dump there, and then chip them. And then chip them so it combines it down into a wagon so that, it's less, it takes up less space.
But the contract that's entered specifically says they can't do that.
Right? It's
So
very,
we would need to amend it to
The
allow.
conversation that we had with them in the original contract was that they were actually going to bring the chipper with them and
Do it on the street,
do
yes.
it on the street as they went.
See, that's what I've
Staging the
that's
chipper.
what I've seen. I've seen the chipper on the street where
Right.
they're feeding the chippers in front of people's houses.
Well-
I didn't know they were using.
Yeah, she indicated at that meeting that that's what they were doing.
Okay.
And so we kind of said, you probably should amend the contract. And since then, we learned that they were doing other stuff outside the contract, so the contract would most likely need to be amended. And that'll be part of the utility discussion. That's what we talked about last night.
Now, Greg, we bid a 3-year contract. We had more than one bidder. If we change the contract too much, do we have to put it back out for bid?
If we would change any of the main terms, it would need to go back out for bid. That would probably be minor enough, especially if we're not changing any price terms, that's a very small change. I would need to actually go back to the original bid documents to see if we could make that change.
See if it's in the scope.
And see, yeah.
Because I think the scope that we bid was just residential units.
Either that or we have to make them follow the contract. So they don't pick up the school stuff, they don't go through the parks, and they don't use our staging area.
Right.
I would be fine with all that, but I would like them to pick up the burn pile too. That would be my preference, that we want to keep that open. So that's a value added for our citizens. So if they're doing it anyway, that would be my preference, to take this and say, you need this, you've been outside the scope of the contract, let's come together and we can add this service for our constituents.
Because
But I don't think there's a problem. I think my question would go more along the lines of why the change? Are we using the burn pile as a staging location? Do they feel like they're more efficient in that manner, or is it?
Yeah, they
I
stated,
would like to know why they're doing that.
That's what
If
she
it does offer them some efficiency, then
Yeah.
like you're saying,
it does. She said, so at the utility meeting,
Yeah.
she said that, or her partner that was there, the
The guy
gentleman,
next to her
there was a
did.
gentleman with her. He knew exactly how many stoplights he has to go from Chatham to wherever he goes. I mean, it was like 27, I can't remember. He knew exactly how many he has to go. So with every load of branches they pick up, to drive across town, to come back, pick up the next load, it was a lot easier for them to be able to take them to the burn pile location, pile there, and then chip it all there and take less trips across town.
Well, if that's what they're doing, then it's better for us to offer that as a compromise in the contract.
Yeah.
To offer them the efficiency and then have them.
Because they pull their chipper in there to take care of the stuff that the people bring down to the
Yeah.
burn pile.
So I don't see why, if they're doing that already, why not just chip the stuff that, you know, from the 50 people who dropped off that month, go ahead and chip their stuff, take it with them. It just,
Because
because
everything.
those
that's-
are, has to be residents anyway.
Yeah, everything that's in the burn pile should be residential unit
Right.
limbs.
That's the problem.
Should be.
And that's what she has a discussion, we have a discussion once a month that they're still saying that outside contractors are bringing stuff down there and dumping it in
Right.
the burn pile. We do not have the staff to
Yeah.
turn around and pay a person to sit there. So we have cameras, and Burns Department has tried to track people down in the past and get license numbers, and a lot of times it'll be, do we hire somebody to come and trim the trees at his house? So therefore, he lives in Chatham, so therefore they can drop them off at the burn pile.
What about in the permitting process, you give the make and model of your vehicle with your license plate number? And,
We did all that for a while,
mhm.
but there's still, you can come in and get a permit saying that you were working for someone in Chatham and take it down there. It's an outside, a private company that probably should have charged the resident
Right,
to haul that all the way into Springfield.
right.
But we'll just take it down to the burn pile and leave it down there. I'm not saying that's wrong, I'm just saying that's one of the things that we're facing.
But they wouldn't have a Chatham address, like that vehicle wouldn't be registered in Chatham. So I think we could still take action on them.
But the issue you're running into, and from an enforcement side, is that people will always vary from the rules. The problem that we're gonna run into is that you still have those people, whether they're registering or not registering, they're dumping that material down there. And there's no way really to police that unless you're going to actually send a person down there to monitor what goes in and out. And we don't have the manpower to do that. So therefore, you get everyone just kind of dumping whatever they want down there. And that's probably, I know the board, and just like everybody else, our concern is liability. We're allowing people to go beyond the fence. We're allowing them to go back there and dump whatever they want to dump, whether it's tree limbs or whether it's toilet seats or whatever they're throwing down there. Then it's either the village's responsibility to clean that up, or it's the tree people's responsibility to clean that up. And discussion was held last month. That was one of the reasons.
But we should be able to see with the video a vehicle that comes in.
With the permitting process, can't we, I mean, through the permitting process, say, you know, you have to select the date and time, like here are the date and times available, and you have to select the specific date and time you're gonna bring them. And, okay, well, every restaurant in town during COVID has figured out a way to do curbside pickup, and they're able to do that. When you go to the lumber yard, I can go in the back, pick up my lumber, show the ticket to the guy in front. I mean, I don't know why, you know.
You're right, though. If I had a person sit there all day long.
Not all day, but they could select a time.
People come and get those permits at any time, and they're like, they'll have the stuff loaded on their thing, and I want to take it down there right now. That's what they've always done in the past. They don't want to change from that. They load all the stuff on their trailer, they come by, they get a permit, go straight down there and dump it.
But they're not getting permits now, right?
No, not since COVID, no.
Well, that's not true. That started, the permits dropped off in October 2019.
Yeah.
And I've had people come to me say, they've gone to the utility office and they were told, don't get a permit, just go dump in front of the gate.
Yeah.
My question is,
We have an
whose
ordinance.
directive was that to not give them a permit?
Not mine.
So is the utility staff saying, I don't want to deal with this?
Irregardless whether there's.
No, it's not irregardless. It's an ordinance and I want to know.
Enforce it. That's the issue we're running into. There is no way to possibly enforce that.
But we-
That's what
But
we're
it's-
running into.
So do
But
we-
Chief Foley, this is the ordinance. This is the ordinance that was voted and approved by the village board. So enforcing it means that is what's supposed to be happening because that's what this village board said to do. So my question is, whose decision was it to not give
follow the
permits
ordinance.
when it's in the village ordinance? So you're saying it wasn't your directive, so that means the utility staff has taken upon themselves to not do that.
Or somebody down there in that shop area told them.
But these are,
"You don't want to run down there and check people's permits every time."
but these constituents are telling me they're going into the utility office and being told that. And so then I want to ask every village utility office employee, how they come to that decision.
We just need to set some standards, very clear standards.
They are clear in the ordinance right
They
now.
are clear in the ordinance.
To the utility, well, it's gotta be somebody in the utility office, don't you think? I mean, but.
I don't know.
But, as long as they don't have to say that.
I think we can readdress the issue with the question that you had. I think we can readdress that with the employees of across the street. But it still doesn't take care of the issue that we're going to have as people dumping tree limbs down there or other things being dumped down there.
But
We have-
Chief, if I don't see how me taking away that ability from law-abiding citizens that are willing to go get a permit, me saying you can't use that burnt pile, the people that are not going to follow it are still going to dump. So the enforcement issue doesn't change pre or post whether or not we take it away from people who want to use it and are willing to follow the process that we've set into place.
If that's what the board wants, we can give them permits. That's not a problem. But as long as it feels good to the board, that's fine.
Because I hear from numerous people, they want to be able to use that because they like that the branches can be picked up, but sometimes you don't want to have those branches sitting there for 3 weeks killing your grass, and some people have the ability to load them in a truck to do it. And it's there, and I've asked last time, there's nothing, we don't have any other plans with the burn pile, and we have a company that's going through and picking up, and they, for efficiency, would like to use it to stage anyway. So it seems like a nice compromise that allows for a service to be provided for constituents who want it and to be used that way.
I don't disagree, but I'm not defending the company that has to go there and pick up the limbs and everything else, but you're also putting a bigger burden on that company to go in there and pick up whatever else that citizen has brought down there. They're required to pick all that up.
Well, if those branches were lawfully brought there by a resident of the village, it's a service that we're providing, and I don't see it. My job is not to make their job easier. My job is to make sure that we're providing the ordinances that provide the services for the citizens of this town, not to make their job easier.
I think what Chief Foley was saying is if I bring some branches and a couch, that, that's where it becomes a problem for the contractor because they've got to move the couch out of the way in order to get the branch because they shouldn't be obligated to pick up the couch. So I understand like the entire gamut that we have fly dumping occurring with legal dumping.
But the problem is, if we can't enforce it now, even if we close it, we can't enforce it.
Right, well, likely if we were to close the gate, we would prevent people from entering behind the gate and dumping couches and chairs and everything back there.
No,
Yes,
there's a
now,
back way.
today,
There's a back way they know of.
okay. I'm not aware of all of the layout, but I think the main entrance does have a gate that I think generally is open, but could be closed. So now today, my understanding was that we were directing people to dump their branches on the east side of the gate, so you don't go behind the gate, you just dump it basically right in front of the gate. That kept people from going in the back, which was kind of a liability with the big trucks and not being monitored and dumping whatever. But at the same time, it would theoretically at least slow it down. Now, what you're saying is if we close the dump, which we have some other concerns with, that they're still going to dump in front of the gate just like they've been trained to do over the last year. And I don't disagree with that.
And we're not going to be able to force. And from what I've been told, there's a back way that you can get around the gate. So if they're going to dump anyway.
Right.
And so if we're not going to enforce it, whether it's closed or open, that's irrelevant. But what I think Trustee Scherzel's saying is there's people that like the service.
I understand, and many of them have come to our meetings and just said, hey, I just want to make sure I'm still going to be able to do this. I mean, I remember it vividly with people asking that. Now, I think that there are compromises that we can make, like, for instance, it's open from 8 to 4 on Saturday and Sunday, or during the week, or whatever. I don't think it has to be open all the time.
Right.
I think we just have to set that expectation for the residents to say, hey, these are the windows and this is why. You know, we have this situation. We had to make adjustments as a result of it. Unfortunately, you know, the hours are now going to be limited, and we can do things like that. But the other clarification I wanted to make was that there are 2 agreements with that company. So I know we talked about picking up residents and dropping off here and there. There are 2 different agreements, so we have to keep that in mind that they're not the same, and they might have different terms.
Yeah, and the other agreement we weren't part of is just, from my understanding, just concerning the burn pile.
Right, but how do things get in that burn pile? I think there are 2 ways. Citizens that drop things off there, hopefully by getting a permit the proper way. And secondly, our village crew does tree work, whether it be in the parks or on streets or whatever they have the ability to do. Those branches have to go somewhere too.
Right.
And that, regardless of what we do with the citizens, will continue.
Right.
So I feel like there's a need for a burn pile, whether it be our crew that fills it with our work or the citizens that fill it because they don't want to wait until the beginning of the month. So I feel the dump has a need. We just have to define the scope and the way that we'll enforce and police it, and then deal with the fallout, because there will be couches and there will be toilet seats.
What is our fine or penalty for the fly dumping out there?
$100 to $750. So here, the penalty is,
Have we enforced anybody on that? Have we ever, I mean, prior?
yeah, it's not less than 100 nor to exceed $750. Each and every day that a violation continues shall be considered a separate offense.
So I dump a couch today and it's still there tomorrow and the next day. Greg, are you saying that those would be 3 different offenses?
It sounds like that's the way it's written, yeah.
Okay.
And I think the chief
That's
can,
usually how it
But we have
works.
to have a method of enforcing.
Right.
Right.
Have we ever, I mean,
And
back in the day, is there
I don't
ever?
know if we've ever enforced anything back there. I know the police have gone down, caught businesses dumping, and required them to pick all the stuff back
Oh,
up
right.
and take it with them. But that's
Right,
few and far between.
right.
And then part B of that is, in addition to the penalty as prescribed in Division A of this section, the village may apply to the court for equitable relief, compelling an owner or occupier of land to abate a nuisance created by the violation.
So come get your stuff.
the one last thing is that I think the chief was saying that maybe the camera that's out there doesn't provide the security needed to, you know, like for instance, if we knew that 3 people went back there between today and yesterday and suddenly there's a couch, then we'd have to go to the cameras to try to figure out, and maybe the camera doesn't provide enough resolution to allow those guys to know who did it, but, or even be able to prosecute or chase them down or whatever, but.
One thing that we can take care of is starting tomorrow, if people come in and get a permit, they can get a permit. The other thing that we need to do is we need to find a different location for people to drop branches. Behind the fence is not good because we have equipment back there now, we have vehicles stored back there now, transformers. We don't want people just roaming around back there on a Saturday or something like that they could pick up something and throw in the back of the truck.
But like Dewey said, could we make a day during the week where it's just a specified time where each week you've got Wednesdays, you can come,
We could do that.
but still not go back there, maybe put it in a different area?
But we could do that. But what do we do if I cut the branches on Thursday and I don't want to wait till next Wednesday to take them? I mean,
Well,
that's gonna happen.
If
Every
you,
scenario that you can think of
right,
will happen.
I will agree.
So,
There's a compromise. So you only have so much staff, so much time, so much ability to, and that's just what it is.
we need to prepare an area in that front part up there that people can come down and drop their branches. We'll call it a burn pile because we don't burn anymore.
Right.
And don't call it a dump because we don't want people dumping there.
Right.
So call it a branch pile.
Branch pile.
Branch pile there, and then.
Can we focus
This
a-
company to do it, or we hire someone else, or we turn around and get our own chipper and chip everything that's out there ourselves. Whatever you guys come up with that you want us to do, we will do.
Can we,
The problem is it's hard for us to be able to do everything for everybody.
Right, understand.
Yeah.
Okay. Any more village manager update?
Oh, just one thing on the leaves. Thank you for sending those maps. I think it's helpful for folks to understand when their turn might be. I was going to wait until the spring, but I'll just mention it now that I think there were some folks, and I am one of them, that thought that this year's dates were a little late and that maybe some consistency might help. Like, for instance, if we were to ask that in the fall, the pickup be the week of November 1st and the week of December 1st. I feel like that helps to get the early trees an opportunity and then also the late trees an opportunity.
It was like you were at the utility committee.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we-
Well,
I
I
wasn't
already
there.
talked to Waste Management and reserved 2 weeks in November for them to be able to take care of that. I don't think it's the first week in November, I think it's the second that they would start. But they'll do the second week of November and then the very last week, November, first week of December.
Yeah, I think that just my thought in this year was that the trees maybe dropped earlier than normal, but having that consistency would make it easier on the utility folks and also easier on the citizens to remember that, hey, this is a service that exists. It's every November 1st and December 1st, and also March 1st and April 1st, or whatever the spring dates are. But I had heard from a lot of folks that they didn't want their house all bundled up, with leaves when Thanksgiving was occurring. So a lot of them paid to have the leaves removed when they're already paying to have the leaves removed. So,
Well, I think this reverts back to you're not gonna please everybody. So if most leaves are knocked down by November 1st, most are knocked down by December 1st, most are knocked down by the second week in November. But again, you're not gonna please everybody, and if you just can't, so if you want your leaves picked up before the time we do it, you're just gonna have to do it. That's it.
We've done this for years with our own staff and with these guys. With our own staff, it's drawn out over a longer period because we have the wrong equipment that we were trying to do it with. So we had guys throwing stuff on the back of dump trucks instead of the way that these guys come along and they go in the back of garbage trucks. They're a lot faster and more efficient at it. They can get it done in that 2-week span. So I think we can move it up, let them do a 2-week one, then wait a couple, almost 3 to 4 weeks to be able to come and get the last one. Because sure, you don't want to put a bag out there and then think that they're all winter long because, well, we picked them up the 1st of December and I didn't get mine out there until the 7th of December. Those people need to put a sticker on it then and get rid of it. But we've looked at it over the years. It worked out pretty good last year with using these dates, so that's why we tried to hit it again. But we had a lot of windstorms and a couple big rain events that brought all those leaves down way earlier than where it did last year. So we'll aim for it and try to hit a spot next year. Now, if we have a long fall with no storms and stuff coming through, then in December, that last pickup is going to be a large one for them, and there may be a few people that are like, well, my leaves haven't fallen yet. Well, just remember that we changed, okay?
So,
I do remember.
before we wrap up this discussion, so going forward, I know there's a number of things of how we can stage, designate a section out there, work with the chief on a new security camera, things to prevent dumping, but working with Greg and you, is it a possibility, and I think Trustee Mann talked about too, where we can, with the contract, look at a compromise that instead of having 2, that there's 1 where they could pick up from the branch pile.
I will approach them with that, okay?
To move it to one contract?
One
We're
contract.
gonna be moving too many terms to combine those contracts. I can tell you that right
You'd
now.
have to,
So
you'd have to
then we need
rebid
to
it.
go out for a rebid. Then,
We-
then I'm fine with that.
I don't
No,
know if we wanna do
we
that.
don't wanna do it, but,
You got a pretty good price.
Yeah,
yeah.
You might be given that.
because we've still got 2 years left on
Yeah.
the deal.
We can work on what we discussed between the
The
contracts,
stuff that's out of the scope.
but we can't
Coming up with a
combine
price.
those.
They do a lot of work for us.
I know.
We need trees trimmed and cut down and stuff.
Could we redefine residential unit to mean those leaves at the branch pile?
Why What is it?
Or those?
Yeah, I
is
mean,
that
why
the
not
ranch
change
file?
that definition?
The only, what we would need to change just the branch pile non-bid contract. And I would need to look at both of, I would need to compare both.
But aren't they in breach of contract with the 3-year contract because they've been going out there and staging?
Do we have proof, pictures, video?
They told us in the utility committee meeting
They told us, Matt.
directly. I mean, they told us and they acknowledged, and they're not trying to be malicious. So I want to be very clear about that.
No.
They're great partners to Chatham and they do a lot for Chatham. So they're not being malicious and trying to hide. I don't know if they didn't realize that, but no, they told us directly in the utility committee meeting that that's what they were doing.
And they're just trying to be efficient.
And I don't blame them for wanting to use that, but what I'm saying is, that's not the contract. And there is a way where we can compromise, come together. We've got a service that people want. They need to make their job more efficient, easier.
But since this was procured, you have to follow what the original procurement was.
And let me also remind everybody too, when we went into this, we all knew that there was gonna be a learning curve with this. We talked about it with the contract, so this is part of that learning curve as far as I'm concerned. So
I agree.
try not to get too contentious about any of this. This is all part of it, trying to figure this out. So yeah, I think bringing them to the table and let's start having some conversations about compromising and see what we can do without breaching the contract to the point where we have to redo the whole thing.
So, and we did invite them to last night's meeting, but she couldn't make it. She wants to make it. She will at some point. So we can definitely have that discussion with them. But Craig, if you could see where there is wiggle room and let us know.
Sure.
That way we don't, so for the fact of not having to just re-procure something, if we could, what we can work out. Public Property and Recreation Committee discussion.
We haven't met.
I apologize, I don't want to continue this conversation. But since you guys voted, technically, the pile's still open, so they still need to go down and do the permitting process, correct?
Correct.
Right.
Okay, thank you. Good enough.
Because that's the ordinance.
There hasn't been another Public Properties Commission since our last committee of the whole. Just a reminder to those of you that are interested in Christmas lights to try to attend the Light Up the Park display. It's a great job this year, and that those monies will be spent in Chatham Parks. So
I think the word's out.
yeah, pretty crazy.
Looks nice. Utility Oversight Committee discussion, we kind of talked about just about everything we did. The only thing they had a consensus I haven't shared is they all thought November 1st, December 1st. And it was kind of along Dewey's thinking. Citizen Packelhofer and Lewis kind of said that they would, they thought if you get the first in people's heads, that's what they remember, it's easier, and this and that. So that's what their consensus was to bring forward. If we could ask them, because our contract with Waste Management, we can't really dictate it, can we?
They'll pick up 2 weeks.
Right.
In the winter and 2 weeks in the spring.
And it's up to them.
And, well, no, it allows us to work together to come up with a time frame, and that's why.
Right.
I wanted to make sure that, I'm sure they have other contracts with other municipalities, but.
Sure.
I said I'd like to get that first one moved up into early November,
Yeah.
so.
Okay, perfect.
And I
That's
think you've
what,
done a good job in the past of getting the right dates, and it's obviously impossible to predict when those things are going to fall.
oh, it's tough. The other thing we discussed was the contract and that we would have to discuss it here, and that's been done good. The last thing that we discussed was utility bill. When we had a discussion in that committee about the utility bills, and that July and August had seemed high back then, and what we could do, and then we had the auditors in, and they indicated they can take a sample and they do audit those. So the discussion, so since that committee, I've gotten more calls, you've gotten more calls, I don't know if anybody else has, just about how July and August were just, it seemed off. It was way more than usual. So that committee thought that if we could have the internal auditors, and actually it was Mr. Lewis's idea, and it was a great idea, if we could expand that sample to take 10 samples from each precinct. So we thought that we had talked about neighborhoods, we had talked about, the different things, but if we could get a sample of July and August of this last year, when they do their internal audit, if they could do 10 from each precinct in their sample.
Could you help me understand what the level of detail is with this? And I'm just looking for clarification, like.
So what the internal auditors, when they came in, they said they look at all the different things. They look at is what was billed, what was used.
Yeah, I think that they said they verify that so I've gone through audits before, but they'll ensure that the total amount billed was what was put into the books, so there was $853,000 of revenue, and that's what was put into the general ledger. And they'll also take a sample of some of the invoices, and I think they mentioned, they were friendlies, meaning
They take some employees.
like maybe employees or something thereabouts, bills, and they verify the rate. So you used 1,300 gallons, the price per gallon is X, your bill should be $63, and that's what it
And I
was.
thought they looked compared to last meter, so the meter reading was
Yeah, they looked at the
comparable.
meters as well.
Yeah, I think that the invoice has the before and after readings on it. So that's how they could validate the quantity billed, match the differences in the meters. But obviously, I just want to make sure we can't go back in time and go walk out to the meter and look at it.
Correct.
What it was on the read date or whatever.
Because one thing that was concerning, and Pat, you should know, somebody at the utility office told somebody that had called that because they complained about their July and August, and they said, well, quite frankly, we don't read every meter anyway, so I don't know. And that's exactly what they were told. And so,
We try to read as many meters as possible. There are some that if it's malfunctioning or something that doesn't do an automatic read, then we usually send someone out. I mean, that was the whole idea, is the girls in the office were supposed to send that list to Shane and to Dustin, and they would have somebody in their department go out and do a manual read. So if that's not happening, then there's a flaw, but we have a policy and a procedure for those folks to follow.
right.
And telling somebody that we don't read all the meters is nowhere in our policy manual. So, and I would imagine if I asked any of the girls, they would all deny that they said that, so.
Maybe they meant that they don't physically walk out there and read them all because many of them
Could've
were
been,
submitted electronically.
That could have been.
The only thing I'm asking about the audit is that, and I'm not putting this on the citizens, but any of us could look at our bills and look at the before and after and calculate the quantity and see if that's what the quantity was billed and if the rate matches our ordinances. So are you guys aware of any invoices that deviated from that? And again, I'm not trying to stifle the conversation. I just want to understand what we're asking for.
I mean, I've heard from people who live in Chatham and do meter reading in other communities and have had struggles trying to make heads or tails of the issues within there. They were able to work with the utility office and get it figured out, but just even knowing the questions to ask can be difficult sometimes for constituents when something seems off.
Yeah.
And I think that's the struggle, is that it can be complicated for some people that don't deal with this all the time, and you're just looking at your bill and you're going to pay it. And I think that's where the internal auditor can provide some credibility to looking at those, especially in different areas, to make sure that if they're all flaws, they're going to be catched. And we hear one-off here and there, but we don't know how widespread. We've had, people have been billed wrong. We don't know unless we do more due diligence to know where are there flaws and do more work to get them corrected.
The one thing I know is, like, there's been complaints on Facebook, on this and that, but nobody ever contacts us. So there's been many issues throughout the history that I've been in the village and nobody ever contacts us. I have literally received, I've talked to 50 people about this. And they said, what is going on with our utility prices and bill and usage?
Yeah.
And it was for July and August. Now I've seen us up a couple of cents, and they're like, it's back to about normal.
Fine now, yeah.
Back to what we thought we should be. So that's the only thing, that's the only reason I brought it up.
Right.
Is because normally I hear, you know, you hear the chatter, but nobody ever contacts us about us.
So last night's conversation was during the next internal audit, pull 10,
From-
the electric bills.
From each precinct, so we don't pull employees, we don't pull friendly, we actually do a small sample audit.
Of every precinct, Chatham and Ball, they could pull 10 from each one, because those are different areas that could be easily found to find an area. And not the next internal audit, since it's a time period, July and August, I don't know if they could do this separately to go through. I also don't know the
Well,
cost.
it'd be this last July and August.
Yeah, the last July, August 20.
So when they go to audit coming up here, it will be for this last fiscal year, won't it, Pat?
Yeah.
So it would include July
Yeah,
and
so,
August.
I mean, they could do that, we could wait till then.
Well, they start doing it coming up here, right?
Yeah, it's usually in February.
February.
Yeah, so in February is when we could ask for it to be done.
Yeah, just to be clear, I'm not suggesting that we don't do it or that the sample size isn't expanded. I just wanted to understand what truly were the differences being proposed. And it sounds like we're going to do the same studies, just more of them.
Right.
Is that right?
Because I believe Sickich says they do 24 total, and 8 of those were village employees. I mean, from an accountability standpoint, I'd like to see that audit sample bigger.
Yeah. It could be a percentage of the total population so that as the population grows,
Yeah.
you know, the sample size would grow. Yeah.
A lot of them are our own employees, right?
Well, I mean, they can go to them and pull information easier. I'm sure is one aspect.
And, I mean, so that's what we talked about last night. Was there anything we missed?
The
And as
audit.
far as those, the utilities and the costs and the charges and the computer inputs, and again, you've said this before, not once, not twice, but probably 100 times, if any changes are made, it shows, right? It shows a path. If there were any changes made. So this could just be a seasonal issue.
It could.
It could. I mean, mine was probably $50 to $100 cheaper. So during this time. So, and I give Pat permission to give you that information if you want to look at it, if you're going to question me on that.
No, I had a few people said that was lower,
It
but
was lower, it was less. So to say that it was higher village-wide or higher however wide, and you know, conspiracies or whatever, you know, I think
This will be perfect. This will put an end to it. Okay?
I hope so.
One way or the other.
I hope so.
agree. And then maybe your
Yes.
area, you know, was under, I don't know, it'd be interesting to see what it shows.
So that's just what the committee discussed, and that's what they recommended. And Mr. Lewis is the one that came up with that. I thought it was actually a good idea.
with the precincts, yeah.
Would you guys prefer that I get a price for this or just go ahead and hire me?
I would think it price.
I would say make it part of the internal audit and see how much more it will add because it'll be more than 24.
Just 5 precincts, 5 Chatham.
No, there's
We
11.
got a lot more precincts
Oh,
Yeah.
and Ball, Chatham.
Yeah, ball 5, Chatham,
They-
6,
they-
so there's 11 total.
and Woodside.
So it'll be more than their normal 24. So whatever the increased
It'd be
cost
over
would be.
100. Yeah.
And we're doing just July and August?
That's what they
when I
kind of,
heard a number of people, and people volunteering to give all their information, whatever is needed. They said, you know, we could do several people said we could do an all call where ask people who would want to volunteer if you need volunteers, but it'd be July usage was just an anomaly for many people. A couple people it was normal, but a vast number of people reaching out saying that it just seemed way out of the norm.
I think this would settle it.
yep.
It's one way to just look at it.
And that's all we talked about. It was a lot at the utility committee. Next, employee survey discussion. So You know, as part of Matrix, when they came in here, they kind of discussed employee surveys, and they discussed employee evaluations. And, you know, we were moving towards, I think we have a commitment to do employee evaluations. I sent a sample survey to everybody in the email. I hope everybody had a chance to look over it, discuss it. It would be good if we could do it. We need to be able to do it so it's guaranteed anonymous. The only way you're going to get any truthful answers or accurate answers are going to be anonymous. So whether it be a platform of SurveyMonkey, or if there's a couple of trustees that hand them out and receive them back and then tabulate. I don't think it could be one trustee. I think it would have to be a pair, just so there's some integrity to it. If you did it that way, you'd have to have unique numbers on the survey so you can identify that there's not somebody turning in more than one. But you want to keep it anonymous. But I know Mr. Detmers has indicated that there is like SurveyMonkey and those things that can do an anonymous and provide results and do that kind of thing.
Can you do it on SurveyMonkey, Trustee Detmers, where you don't have, where you couldn't do multiple?
Well, my understanding of these types of services is that you would have a list of users. So like there's, 6 trustees and a mayor. And so you would provide 7 email addresses, and then there's a token that's assigned to each email address. So it's sent to you once.
Yeah.
You respond by clicking this link, which brings you to a URL that's 700 characters long. And then when submitted, goes back to their system and says, okay, of the 7 that we sent out, we got 5 responses. And here's the tabulation of what those responses were.
The organizations I've worked for have done it that way. So your response is anonymous, but it does ensure that there's not multiple responses.
And there may be a way, and I think it's up to us to decide, but you might be able to put them in groups, like each department could be done separately, and you'd have to keep in mind that, the utility department's 3 people. I'm just making this up, but, it's easy to pinpoint. So you have to be pretty cautious, I think, in order to be truly unanimous or anonymous, and you have to be careful about how you split it up. But
I know a general rule is you can't have a department smaller than 5, other than it's too identifying, but
that's how my corporation does it, that if I have 5 or less respondents, then my information is summarized as my supervisor.
right. So
Even if I have 8 employees and only 4 of them do it, I still don't get it.
right. So I think that the questions, Trustee Guerra, I appreciate you putting this together, are general enough that we wouldn't necessarily need to break it down too granular like that. I mean, you could have overall broad departments, and some may need to be combined, and we can talk about that. But I think for the general purposes of this, I don't think we need to get too, this is the first year. We don't need to get too specific, make it too complicated.
So SurveyMonkey or like that would have probably a cost associated with it.
Now, if you did a general line that you didn't do tokens, all that, you can do up to 10 questions for free. But to be able to keep it anonymous and to have those kind of tokens, I'm sure that's a service that we'd have to pay for.
I'll look into the price for you and let you know.
Okay.
Just whatever it takes.
All right.
But I didn't have a problem with any of the questions.
Yeah, I mean, they're pretty general. Try to keep them general, but to try to give, hopefully at the end of the day, provides you some tools.
Dewey, do you know if it gives them a time frame to be able to fill it out?
Yeah, you definitely can do that.
closing.
It closes in 7 days or whatnot. And I think just, obviously, we haven't seen the results, but we'll have to keep doing this throughout the years so that you can build a trend, and you can see that things are getting better or things are getting worse, because, the way I feel about something is different than how, Trustee Mann might feel about it. And we're going through the same thing. We just observe it differently, so.
Did anybody else have any issues with questions or wanted to see a different question? Okay. It'd be good to get this done. So Pat, if you could have it by the next committee, so we could look to get it out there and then get to work on it. So you'll research SurveyMonkey or whatever, there's a couple of different services.
A few of them.
I've used SurveyMonkey before, it's been good. We just want to make sure that we can get it out anonymous, it can be returned anonymous, and people feel open to be able to answer us.
And if there's a broader use, like, if I wouldn't mind seeing the village being able to use something like SurveyMonkey for the community. Like, would you like to see such and such, a way to keep the comprehensive plan kind of information live, where there may be times where we'd want to do just a general question, just to get a sense of where.
And that's what UIS used with.
Yeah.
For that, yes,
Yeah.
that was really good.
Yeah. So I'll look to see what the different prices are and how many people you can put it out to find out whether, if it's something that we want to use village-wide in the future.
Yeah.
How many village employees do we have?
50.
Head count, 53.
Yeah.
And we have some that are getting close to retirement, though?
We're talking about.
Correct. Maybe? Yeah. Okay, so one?
Well, we're two.
Two, all right. All right, that's all. All right, thank you. Any public comments on village business? Okay. Schedule of meetings, committee of the whole, 6:15. Well, it's not, we'll have it tonight, December 8th, okay.
This one's updated.
What do we,
Well,
January 12th, 2021. Ooh. Well, we probably couldn't put on there because we hadn't approved it yet. We approved them tonight.
good call.
So, do we have reason for,
Yeah.
do we have a reason for a closed session?
We do.
And what's the closed session under? Is it going to be number one, setting the price for sale of public property, 2C2?
It is.
Can I have a motion to go into closed session?
I'll make that motion.
Trustee Churchill, seconded by trustees Charo. Are we going to, the discussion, are we going to come back into session, or are we only going to come back into adjourn?
Adjourn.
We'll just come back into adjourn, so there's no need for,
I need to talk to you for a second.
Do you need a second thing for closed session, or is it just the one? The setting, the sale?
Two reasons for closed session or just one?
Are we just under deciding the price?
Sounds like,
or is it 2C2 as well, or
I'm
collective
under the impression right now it's just number one.
number one?
And so I think
I didn't know.
Oh, he can't answer that. He can answer
No
that.
action for this.
But we're just making sure it's only for this tonight, correct? So,
Closed session.
okay.
Only one item. Why don't we do two of them, number one and number two, personnel under 2C.
We
Okay.
need a separate motion.
So I need a second motion to go into closed session under personnel 2C1 as well. We have a motion for 2C2. Trustee Charo, second by trustee Mann. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay,
No
so,
action for that one either.
yep, there'll be no action afterwards. We will just come back to adjourn.
Hey, guys, don't you need a roll call vote to go into executive session?
Yep,
Trustee Mann.
Yes.
Trustee Mao.
Yes.
Trustee Charo.
Yes.
Trustee Gerger.
yes,
Trustee Detmer.
Yes.
Trustee Churchill.
Yes.
okay. Thank you. So you're out,
No, I need him here for the first one.
you're in. Okay, if everybody else.